All right, guys, welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today we're going to be looking at our Week 4 breakdown, analysis, and predictions. Nice little slate we got. A lot of underrated games. Should be a fun Saturday. So, kicking things off, Notre and Wisconsin. For the Fighting Irish, this offensive line has struggled immensely. They are outside the top 120 in sacks and tackles for loss allowed. They've just not been very good. The new starters are experienced, though. That includes Kane Madden coming over from Marshall. Josh Lugg, Zeke Corral, Jarrett Patterson. So, it's kind of been shocking that this offensive line has really struggled. Michael Carmody, a left tackle himself, has not been very good, filling in for Bobby Fisher, who went down with an injury. And they play a fierce front seven by Wisconsin. Noah Burks and Nick Herbrig. I figured they'd be really great against Penn State, and they were. They contained the run immensely. And then the game plan forced those guys back inside, and there was Jack Sanborn to help clean things up. Leo Chanel is now back. He did not play in that game. So their linebacking core is fully healthy. They only had 50 rushing yards on 18 carries to Penn State. They're playing a much worse offensive line at this moment in time in Notre Dame. And they're going to want to run the ball. And they're going to want to be able to get that play action going. Jack Cohen, the former Wisconsin Badger, has played really good this year, though. He's played with accuracy, showed great command of the offense. He's really carried them at times because they've not really been able to run the ball whatsoever. Chris Tyree's been absent. He's not played very well this year. Kyron Williams, he's doing the best of the daylight he has. He had about 150 yards in last week's game. 2 scores, but overall it's not been pretty. Looking for the Badgers, though. Cam Lucia, he's been really good, an explosive runner. He got 265 yards, 2 scores on 51 carries so far this year. Isaac Arendo, they've been a good 1-2 punch. Ran for 180 hard-fought yards against Penn State. They had some success vertically, though. Danny Davis, Jake Ferguson, they've been so good being able to convert, making plays with their hands. They do need to get Kendrick Pryor more involved, I feel like, but they got a nice tackle duo in Tyler Beach, Logan Bruss. I think they're going to make it a little easier for Graham Mertz in this game. I think they're going to run the ball much better because they're not playing a good defense, really. 5.2 yards per carry allowed so far against the Irish. They've been allowing a lot of big plays. They did pretty good against Purdue, but it's not really their forte. They run the ball. Kurt Heinisch, Myron Amoza, Tagovailoa. They need to be better with penetration. Jack Kaiser, Drew White, those guys need to be better at filling gaps, being in position. Linebacker J.D. Bertan, though, he's been really good. Leads the team in tackles and tackles for loss. So they're plenty capable of slowing down the run. They've just not been able to put it together so far this year. The secondary, it's just been inconsistent. Houston Griffith, he's not been great. Kyle Hamilton, on the other hand, he's been elite. These guys are 41st in yards per attempt allowed. The secondary's been good, but I think play action in this game is certainly going to hurt them. I'm going to take Wisconsin 24-10. I don't see the Fighting Irish being able to really do much on offense because their offensive line's really at a big disadvantage here. And the Badgers, I think they're going to run the ball pretty well. This game just seems, Notre Dame, the way they are playing right now, fits right into the wheelhouse of the Badgers, so that's why I think they're going to win this ball game. LSU, Mississippi State, remember last year, Mike Leach's first game, they went off over 600 passing yards by KJ Costello against the Tigers. Derek Stingley is questionable for this game. The defense for LSU, Major Burns is starting to take on a role in the secondary. They got burned in the open field versus UCLA, though. Open field tackling it's just been a massive problem for them. They're playing very aggressive, though, with a chip on their shoulder. 40 tackles for loss in 3 games. That's just a wild number. They've played with an edge the last 2 weeks. They did good against UCLA, too. They were frequently in the backfield. They've struggled in the open field, though. That's been their biggest issue. BJ Ojulari, one of my big breakout stars, he's already doing so much. He can stay consistent, though. Last year, that was his problem. Showed up early in the year, then disappeared the rest of it. With more playing time, I think he's going to have a big year. You got Andre Anthony coming off the other side. Damone Clark, Michael Backersville, an active front 7. Mississippi State's a very one-dimensional offense. Yeah, they don't really run it that much in the air raid, but Mississippi State last year ran for, 38 yards a game. So far, it's less than 60, so it's really not even a factor of their offense. I think the secondary, though, they got torched last year, and they had some struggles against UCLA as well. It's going to be a big struggle here for them against Will Rogers, very deep receiving core too. Jameer Calvin, Jaden Wally, Makai Polk. Last year, the passing offense for Mississippi State struggled so much after that opening game against LSU. They've made some big strides this year, much more effective, much more efficient. They're really starting to get a handle with this air raid. Looking at LSU, Corey Kenner stepped up at running back, a true freshman. Neither team really runs the ball well. Kenner and Torian Davis-Price, though, they're going to be a solid duo. John Emery's not going to be playing this year due to some academic issues. So LSU does run the ball a lot better. They're playing a great defense, though. They're very underrated. They only allowed 250 yards, played a great game, and lost last week to Memphis. They held Seth Hennigan, Calvin Austin, those guys in check. I mean, Austin still had a big game for the most part. The big three of him and those two and Brandon Thomas, they couldn't really get much going on offense. That's the team that scored 50 points the week prior, too. Memphis with Silverfield, you know how good they are on offense. You know, you look at the corner duo of Emmanuel Forbes, Martin Emerson. You know, the front seven, this rush defense was great last year. They were great last year. I think they're even better this year. NC State had like 32 rushing yards on 25 carries. Jaden Crometti, Aaron Brule. This run defense is really good. And some ball hawks in the secondary. This defense was really solid last year, very underrated. They'll be facing a Max Johnson-led passing attack. It's kind of a by-committing supporting cast, as I just mentioned with the running backs. Same with receivers outside of Keyshawn Boudy, who's on pace to have a magnificent season. You know, Deion Smith, Trey Palmer, those guys have been the main ones getting involved. You also got Coley Moore. So it's kind of been by committee at receiver. Don't really know who's going to step up outside of Boudy. They have the talent, though. I trust these guys to make plays. Max Johnson, 287 yards per game. 11 touchdowns, 2 picks. He's been solid. Made some good and bad plays in that UCLA game. He had to carry the offense, though. They didn't really run the ball. They didn't really try to after a certain point. After the first quarter, it just seemed like they'd abandoned the run. I think this is a very interesting game. LSU, their defense still has question marks, but they're clearly playing with aggressiveness, playing with an edge to them. Mississippi State, though, they should have won last week's game. I think they're going to clean up some of the mistakes. MSU has won this game at home, though. They're hosting this one in Starkville. They've only won at home 4 times since 1990. This is the one game all week I went back and forth on. I really don't know how to pick, and I still don't even have a game pick here. But I'm just going to go ahead and throw out LSU 24-21. I think they'll somehow get the job done. But Mississippi State, a really good football team. This will be a big win for them. It's a big game for Ed Orgeron and the Tigers as well. This is going to be a fun game for 60 minutes. So it'll be interesting to see if Stingley is out, how they can contain this passing attack that shredded them last year. And they weren't even good. After that, they were just pretty bad. And they're starting to figure things out. So that could be an issue for LSU. But again, new offensive coordinator, Bo Pelini out. And the secondary is terrible all year long for LSU. And they've played a little bit better, I guess you could say, to start the year. Certainly, it can't get much worse than last year. But I'm going to go ahead and go with LSU. But Bulldogs could easily win this game. SMU travels to take on TCU. Tanner Mordecai, the Oklahoma transfer, he's been great. 350 yards per game, 16 touchdowns to 2 picks in 3 games. That's just phenomenal work. What's even crazier is Reggie Robertson, their best receiver. He's been the 4th leading pass catcher for this team. He's been involved, but Grant, Danny Gray, or Sheen Rice, Grant Calcaterra, that is the Oklahoma transfer as well. He's got nearly 200 yards, 3 scores, and then again Gray and Rice. A nice little 4-man tandem they got at receiver. These guys are really good. This SMU offense under Sonny Dykes is just booming this season. They're running the ball for almost 200 a game too. Ulysses Bentley, he scored a lot of touchdowns last year. He's back to it again this year. SMU hasn't really played anybody yet, but still what you're able to do is very impressive. Their defense, though, is the biggest question mark. They've allowed nearly 500 yards in back-to-back games. They allowed 12 points versus UNT. They still allowed well over 500 yards. So they've been secondary. It's still an issue as it was last year, but they have 6 interceptions. They've been ball hogs. Freshman safety Isaiah Nwakiba, he's been really good for them as a playmaker. 3 of those picks did come against an FCS opponent, but they've still been recording them in every single game, forcing turnovers. You like to see that. The Cal offense, they diced up the TCU secondary. It's kind of concerning. They allowed over 8 yards per play. This isn't exactly an impressive Cal offense either. So that was mind-blowing. Kahari Coleman, that is, will be back, though. Him and O'Shawn Mathis, they were incredibly lethal last year as pass rushers. Pass rush has been kind of absent so far this year, but that should help give them an extra element. Max Duggan, he's a gamer at quarterback for the Horned Frogs. They don't have a great downfield passing attack. They had success versus Cal with Quentin Johnson. I'd like to see Tay Barber and J.D. Spielman, though, get more involved by a ton. Zach Evans only had a few touches in week 1. I think it was only 5 carries against an FCS school. He ran for 190 against Cal. TCU, though, a nice balanced defense, or offense, that is. And then their defense is questionable, but Coleman back, I think that's going to help give them an edge. You look at their secondary. It kind of had its issues with Cal. Travarius Hodges-Tomlinson, though, he's really good in that back end for them. still, I think SMU's going to have some success. The jury's still kind of out on the Horned Frogs defense, which is a little shocking because coming into the year, this defense was projected to be really good by people, including me. D winners at linebacker stepping up. They have some good talent. It doesn't sound like they've found their footing just yet. I do think Coleman coming back is going to help give them some more pressure. And 2 weeks off is going to give Horned Frogs the edge. I think we're going to see a lot of offense in this one, though. 34-29, TCU is the pick. Texas A&M and Arkansas. The physicality for Arkansas has been intense this year. 282 yards per game on the ground, 11 scores. Great rotation of backs. They'll be throwing out fresh buddies for 60 minutes all game long against A&M. Raheem Sanders, Traylon Smith, KJ Jefferson. He's a runner, and he did good as a passer against Texas. He took advantage of off coverage. He's able to get 7, 8, even more yards. They even made it past the sticks numerous times on just those quick curl comebacks off coverage, just slaying to Texas. They finally had some explosiveness in the passing game last week against GSU. 366 yards and only 13 completions. Vertical passing game has been sluggish, though. That was certainly encouraging. Devion Warren, Tyson Morris, those are explosive guys. You already know about Treylon Burks, though. He's one of the nation's best at receiver. He can do anything they ask of him. It'll be interesting to see how Arkansas gets him involved and how A&M will try to cover it up because they're going to have to get the ball in his hands. He's a premier playmaker. Looking at the A&M defense, their defensive line, they're phenomenal. DeMarvin Leal, Michael Clemens, Jaden Peavy. These guys are physical. They're strong. Nice matchup here. Who's going to win the war in the trenches will ultimately decide this game, in my belief. And for for A&M, though, when they played Colorado, that's the only Power 5 team they played so far. The Buffs held them to under 100 yards rushing. This offensive line replaced 4 starters. Got Kenyon Green back, one of the best at his position. But they're still kind of questionable in the offensive front. They're playing defensive line that has been great at getting off blocks this year. 3 transfers have anchored the defensive line. Trey Williams, John Ridgeway, the headliners. Bumper Poole and Grant Morgan at linebacker. These guys are premier playmakers. Hayden Henry has stepped up as well. So this front 7 is real legit. They're coming to play. Texas had no answers for them all game long. Devon A-Chain and Isaiah Spiller, that's the identity of their offense. If Zach Calzada, was struggling immensely against Colorado, even though they're going to kind of tailor the game plan around him, the skill sets aren't really too different. This is going to be a tough matchup for this A&M offense. A-Chain and Spiller shaping up to one of the top running back duos in the nation, but they're kind of one-dimensional. They're playing a great front 7, so that's just going to be really tough for them. The pass defense for Arkansas was pretty bad last year. I'd say Texas, though, they do have probably better receivers than the Aggies have, so they've already seen a critical test so far. I'd seen Card in that game overthrew a handful of open guys, but the physicality up front was a big reason why the passing game didn't get going for Texas. You look at the secondary, though, with safety, Jalen Catalon, high-energy guy. He has 2 picks already this year. He flies to the football. You'll see and hear his name called all game long. Back to the Aggies defense, though, it's elite. Only 17 points allowed in 3 games. They haven't really played anybody. Allowed only 239 a game. But again, the defensive line's insane. Linebacker Aaron Hansfield, another one of those guys. Second best rush defense in CFB last season. These guys are incredibly stout up front. A great opportunity to win a matchup here and show the world that they are really legit. You look at their secondary, Damani Richardson, Leon O'Neal, incredibly physical. Those guys flighted the ball themselves. O'Neal, 2 picks versus Kent. So both defenses have their fair share of elite guys that are going to have to step up, and the rest of the defense will feed off their plays and their energy. 9 in a row for Texas A&M. Over those 9 games, I think 7 of them have been decided by 10 or less points. This game has for years been very close. I like Arkansas to end the streak here. I think they're going to force Zach Calzada. Barry Odom, he'll have a lead, I think, in the 4th quarter or sometime in the second half, and I think he's going to make some calls that's really going to be dicey for Zach Calzada. I think he's going to make some bad plays. He stepped up late against Colorado and led them to that win. 2 straight drives to end the game. He led them downfield. And then, of course, the game-winning score. I think Barry Odom, though, is going to have his number in this one. A defense will be able to corral him up, force him to make some mistakes. I'm going to take Arkansas on this one, 23-19. Clemson travels to NC State. The Tigers' offense seems doomed so far. Tony Ellitt's not been calling great plays. DJ Uyagungale, he's not throwing very accurately. He doesn't have great chemistry with his receivers. 322 yards per game this far. I think DJ has 2 picks and only 1 touchdown so far in 3 games, so it's been just a mess. Justin Ross, Joseph Nagata, there are plenty of guys, but even the best receivers on their team are not having great communication with their quarterback. It's been a real big issue. It doesn't seem like immediate changes are going to happen. I wouldn't say imminent improvement right off the bat. It seems like this is going to be a year-long thing for them. Will Shipley's starting to get more involved. Also adding to the mess, Lynn J. Dixon, who's supposed to be their starting running back coming into the year. He's gone now. He's transferred. He's entered the portal, that is. Kobe Pace is that number 2 running back. I don't know, just a big mess for them to clean up. They do play a good NC State defense. They held up versus the pass against Mississippi State. The Bulldogs scored on a lot of short fields in that game. No long drives were really allowed. They did lose Peyton Wilson for the year in that game. And they stopped the run very well. 25 carries, 34 yards. They've been plugging opponents up in the trenches all year long. Production-wise, though, Daniel Joseph, he's on the defensive front. He's really the only one that impresses. They need other guys to step up. Drake Thomas at linebacker, he has stepped up. He leads the team in tackles. That's big considering Wilson's now out for the year. Isaiah Moore, he's a phenomenal playmaker in his own right. Interested to see what they can do in this game. Clemson is against this stout defense. Tyler Baker-Williams in the slot, Tanner Ingle, veterans. It's a veteran unit. I was very high on this Wolfpack team coming into the year. They can win this game, especially with Clemson sluggish to start the year. They could catch the Tigers. I don't know if sleepwalking is the right term because they're certainly going to have their attention. I think you're going to see these guys make some plays. I think the Tigers, DJ Ungule, he's going to make some plays on the outside. Shipley's going to be able to get to the edge with some success. I think they're going to have a lot of short fields, though, because this Clemson defense is elite. The front seven's phenomenal. Brian Bresee, Miles Murphy, James Skalski, even Xavier Thomas. You can keep naming them off. They're incredibly talented. They've yet to allow a touchdown this year for a reason. Had the phenomenal goal line stand against Georgia Tech last week in a game that shouldn't have been close, but defense stepped up. Again, they've not allowed a touchdown in 3 games this season. Regardless of opponent, that's pretty impressive. They got, Georgia was on that, and they didn't score anything offensively. So, interested to see how this game plays out. I don't think Devin Leary, in that game, they struggled to take advantage on the outside. They have good receivers, Emeka Emezi, Devin Carter, Thayer Thomas. They have a nice little trio of pass catchers, but they didn't get anything going on the outside. Downfield, they weren't great. He wasn't great in that game. 2 interceptions, completed less than 55%, something in that area. I see Clemson 21-9 in this one, but I do think that NC State can certainly win this game. But Clemson already having a loss, they're going to get things figured out. I don't think it's going to be immediate, but they're going to be playing better football here as we kick off conference play. That's for sure. I'm going to take them 21-9 Tigers. We got some other notable games on the docket. Iowa State and Baylor. This is an interesting one. Baylor, their offense has been great so far. It's pretty impressive because last year they were not good at all versus anybody. They had some bright spots, but for the most part they were not very good. 700-plus yards against an FCS school, nearly 600 versus Kansas. Yes, terrible opponents, but it's still encouraging considering where they started with this group. Abraham Smith, Tristan Ebner, they're both running for 100-plus yards per game. Tommy Bohannon at quarterback, he's been efficient and effective. His duo of pass catchers and R.J. Sneed, Tyquan Thompson, these guys are playing good ball. But they're about to run into a great defense. Iowa State leads the nation in 194 yards allowed per game. They also lead FBS in 3.4 yards per snap allowed. Very good defense. Will McDonald off the edge. Mike Rose, Orion Vance at linebacker. It was encouraging for Baylor. They're about to get a reality check here. I think they could have a little bit of success, though, because they could be legit. You don't know. They're playing a good opponent now, and they would certainly earn a lot more respect if they were able to come in here and run for the 300 yards per game. They've been doing so. So I think they'll have some good plays offensively. It's not going to be enough, though. I think the Bears, though, they have a good defense in their own. I think Brock Purdy, Breece Hall, these guys are going to make a couple of plays. They're going to start getting back to being effective and efficient. The Bears, though, this defense I projected them to have the best defense in the conference coming into the year. It's a bold prediction, but I really liked it. Dave Aranda being the guy he is defensively. They haven't played anyone, of course, but they have probably the nation's top linebacking duo, Terrell Blanchard, that is, Jalen Petrie, Realdo Texada at corner. These guys are really good. A big giant defensive tackle as well, Nikai. I really like this defense. I think Iowa State will have some success, though, offensively. I see them winning this game 28-14, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's much closer because Baylor's defense is a good unit. Another very interesting matchup on the docket, Kansas State travels to Stillwater. The run defense for Oklahoma State has been really good. Malcolm Rodriguez, Devin Harper at linebacker, Brock Martin. He was a guy I mentioned last week against Boise State who needed to play good. He stepped up, 2 sacks, 2.5 tackles for a loss. He stepped up big time. I think they're going to crowd the line of scrimmage in this game and slow down Deuce Vaughn, Joe Irvin. Put the ball in the hands of Will Howard. How will he respond when he's given that opportunity? He's not been a great passer whatsoever. Last week he was great, though. He did exactly what was asked of him, made some plays. But can he do that without this running game? I don't think so. So I'm going to pick Oklahoma State in this game, 23-20. Jalen Warren, he exploded for 200-plus last week. KSU run defense has been great, though. Felix Uzoma, Khalid Duke, Eli Huggins. They have some real good linemen. They have stepped up big time, though, this year. Last year, they were kind of a sluggish unit. I was very excited to see them coming into the year. They're playing really good ball, only allowed 1.9 yards per carry so far. They played Nevada last week and stonewalled them. They played very well in the secondary in both of those games, that and Stanford. Completely stonewalled Stanford, too. They were in the backfield every single play. So this is a good defense. Kansas State can certainly win this game. I just think that Oklahoma State's going to crowd the line of scrimmage, force Will Howard on those third downs to make some plays. He's not going to be able to, so I'm going to pick the Cowboys to win by a field goal. Rutgers and Michigan. The run game was blanketed by Syracuse for the Scarlets a couple weeks ago. They, in their own right, stonewalled Sean Tucker, but here they are playing a much better offensive line and a much better defensive line. Donovan Jeter, Aiden Hutchinson, a lot better. Got Joe Ross as well. I think they're going to slow down this run for Rutgers, force Noah Verdal to make some plays downfield. He's been progressing well, but he's not there yet. I think they're going to put a blanket over Bo Melton, Brad Hawkins, Daxton Hill. Vincent Gray and German Green. I think they're going to play better. They are playing a lot better. Mike McDonald's new scheme that features a lot of zone. I think Rutgers offense. I would like what Greg Schiano is doing with this football team, all facets of it, but I think Michigan right here, they have a big chip on their shoulder, ready to come out and blast opponents. Rutgers offense has been efficient. Effectiveness, though, is still kind of lacking. Good defense for the Scarlet Knights, though. Julius Turner, Mohamed Toure on the defensive front. Futikoski at linebacker. I like this team. I think they're going to continue to make progress throughout the year and next year. Greg Schiano is doing wonders for them, but I think Michigan, they're a little outmatched here. I'm going to take the Wolverines 43-16. I really like what Blake Corum and Hassan Hoskins are doing on the ground. I think they're going to come out here, play with an edge, and I think they're going to get this one done. Not really impressed by the Boise State defense in either facets of the game. Utah State, they have a great offense right now. Andrew Peasley and Logan Bonner, that 2 QB system is really starting to pay off. Devin Tompkins, I think he's going to have a big game. I think Khalil Shakur, he will as well. Stephon Cobbs is out for Boise, so they're a little depleted at receiver. They also can't run the ball. They're still incredibly one-dimensional. I'm picking Utah State in this one, 38-31. I think we're going to see a lot of points. But, yeah, I'm going to pick Utah State with the upside. I picked them last week to beat Air Force as 10-point dogs, and they won outright. So, good stuff from them. I love what Anderson's doing right now with the Utah State Aggies. One of my favorite teams really to watch right now. They're 3-0. I think these guys can really get some big stuff done. West Virginia and Oklahoma. I'll take the Sooners 38-17. My biggest question mark for them is, can their defense continue to win them games while their offense tries to find their footing? How long will this last for Spencer Rattler? He's not really effective. He's been efficient, just not effective, not a lot of yards. Eric Gray, Kennedy Brooks in the running game. They've been solid, just not as good as we expected them to be. They're playing a good West Virginia defense, though. Dante Stills, Alonzo Adai, Akeem Mesidor. They have some really good playmakers. Held up well against West Virginia Tech last week. I think Oklahoma, they're going to find a way to start to get the offense churning in the right direction. If they're sleepwalking, though, West Virginia will probably win this game. I don't think Jared Dodgy is going to make great plays in a hostile environment. Lady Brown's going to get a big workload. I think Oklahoma's going to play a very good game here against West Virginia at home. Could be wrong. They could completely disappoint again, but I'm going to pick them to win this one pretty handily. Missouri and Boston College. No Phil Jurkovich at quarterback. I don't know how it's going to work out for them. Dennis Grissel, whenever he was in action throughout his career, really, he's not been impressive. When he started a majority of games, 2019, his freshman year, he completed 48%. He was just not very good. He's not been very good so far this year in relief. Of course, new tenure, new coach with Jeff Hafley and company, but I don't really trust him here in this spot because Boston College, they've become more of a passing offense. They're kind of one-dimensional at this point. If Grissel doesn't play good, then the offense is doomed. I think Tyler Beatty, Connor Basilick, I think these guys are going to total 400-plus yards as an offense. I think they're going to win this one 30-17. I'll take Missouri in this one. Another notable game, Michigan State, 5-point favorites against Nebraska. Odds makers typically know what they're doing, but they year after year, week after week, they continue to shock us with the odds they make because they usually end up being pretty accurate to what happens. Nebraska in this game, a very encouraging performance last week defensively. They're a good defense. Jojo Domain, Ben Stilley, in the back end, I can't recall his name as safety. I think it's Williams, Deontay Williams. I think that's his name. He's really stepping up this year after missing all of last year for an injury. But I think Michigan State, Mel Tucker, love what they're doing. Peyton Thorne, very poised. Kenneth Walker in this running game are just dynamic. Defensive line, Jacob Pasnuk leading them up front. These guys, Corvarius Crouch at linebacker. I really love this Michigan State team. I think they're going to continue to win. I think they're going to slow down Adrian Martinez. They're going to force him to make some mistakes. I like them to have some success on the edge with their running game as well, and then Peyton Thorne in play action with those streaky receivers, Jalen Red downfield. I think Michigan State's going to win this one, 34-16. That's going to wrap things up. Couldn't cover every game today. A lot of them on the slate. Leave your comments on who you guys think are going to win this weekend's game. Other games like Florida, Tennessee, UCLA, Stanford, don't have time to get into them today, unfortunately. But it's a loaded slate. Make sure you guys leave below who you think is going to win these games. Like, subscribe. See you next time.